I used to believe that the harsh words of others were the source of my pain. But during a deep meditation in the stillness of the night, I realized suffering doesn't come from others. It comes from how we receive it. A cold glance, an unfair criticism, a moment of misunderstanding. These are like sticks tapping the surface of a still pond. But it is our restless mind that turns them into ripple and waves. A seasoned practitioner understands. Inner peace cannot be stolen unless we open the door and give it away. Hurtful words are like raindrops on a lotus leaf. They may touch the surface, but they never soak through if the mind remains unattached. When I truly grasped this, a strange lightness spread through me. I began to observe instead of react, to listen instead of argue. When someone scolded me, I no longer responded. Instead, I silently thought, they must be hurting. That's why they speak this way. And just like that, my heart remained still. Practicing mindfulness daily helps me recognize emotions the moment they arise. An unacknowledged anger can easily spill into hurtful speech. But if I can see it, I smile, take a deep breath, and let it dissolve like thin smoke. Deep within consciousness lies a space that cannot be touched, what I call the true home, the sacred core within each of us. From that space, I observe life like watching rain fall outside the window. Noisy, sometimes harsh, but never able to shake the foundation within. Many people spend their whole lives trapped by others' judgments, never realizing they have the right not to be governed by them. If someone hands you a poisonous gift, you have every right not to accept it. Words are the same. Once I understood this, I felt as light as a cloud. No longer a victim, but a quiet observer, grounded, calm, and deeply free. The question is not, how do I stop others from hurting me? But rather, how do I stop being so easily hurt? When you know how to nourish a heart filled with love and clarity, no one can touch that space unless you allow it. In the past, I used to search far and wide for a teacher, hoping to find someone wise who could illuminate my spiritual path. But the more I traveled, the more people I met, the more I came to realize a simple truth. Every person I encounter in life is a disguised teacher. A stranger's frown amid the crowded traffic made me upset, yet that moment taught me patience. A child accidentally spilling a cup of tea taught me to let go with ease. A longtime friend suddenly growing distant reminded me how to stand on my own without depending emotionally on anyone else. At first, I didn't see these lessons. I reacted. I complained. I blamed. But when I began practicing mindful awareness, I started to see every interaction carries a lesson if we're willing to look deeply. I remember a time when a colleague would regularly criticize me harshly during meetings. Each time, I carried that resentment all day. But instead of continuing to blame them, I asked myself, why do their words hurt so much? Is it because I'm too attached to being acknowledged? At that moment, the colleague stopped being someone who hurt me and became a mirror, reflecting parts of myself I hadn't yet understood. And in that clarity, the anger faded. I felt gratitude instead, for without those encounters, I might never have seen the invisible wounds I carried. Then there are the kind souls, those who leave an imprint with just a gentle gaze or a soft-spoken word. They teach me compassion, the power of being present at just the right time, in just the right way. Over time, I realized that I didn't need to retreat into distant temples to learn the Dharma. The bustling markets, chaotic offices, and even family dinners filled with disagreement, these too are sacred grounds for practice. When we open our hearts and release judgment, every encounter becomes a doorway. We no longer see others as irritations, but as timely lessons sent to us. And life itself transforms from a series of collisions to a journey of awakenings. I used to carry many things from the past, things that shouldn't have happened, words that shouldn't have been said, people who shouldn't have left. They were like an invisible backpack I wore through the years of my youth. Each step became heavier, not because the path was too difficult, but because my heart refused to let go. But one afternoon, as I sat in a meditation beneath a tree, I suddenly understood. Life doesn't live in the should have been. It only exists in the right now. Our minds often drift backward, revisiting the past, tangled in what can no longer be changed. But flowers only bloom in the present. If I keep staring at the withered petals of yesterday, how can I notice the vibrant colors unfolding right before me? I recall a story about an old monk who once led his student up a mountain path. Each carried a bowl of water for the temple. Midway, the student stumbled and spilled half his water. He looked disappointed, almost ashamed. But the monk simply smiled and pointed down the slope. Look! There, along the trail where the water had spilled, grass and wildflowers were springing to life. That moment taught me. Some losses may seem meaningless at first, but they can become the seeds of beauty we haven't yet seen. Acceptance doesn't mean giving up or being indifferent. Acceptance is a courageous act, choosing to stop resisting what already is. When I stopped blaming myself for past mistakes, I began to feel a calm settle in. I could still learn from the past, but I no longer let it define who I was. Every day became a new opportunity to live fully, but only if my hands were free from clinging to yesterday. I came to realize that resisting the present is one of the deepest roots of suffering. When we oppose what is happening, we create unnecessary conflict, one that drains us from within. But when we open our hearts and accept things as they are, whether joyful or painful, life becomes more breathable. From that day on, I began to release expectations, release regret, release the unfinished. Because I knew, only with empty hands can we fully embrace life. I used to think that happiness was something grand, a major success, a perfect relationship, or a day when everything went exactly as planned. But then I quietly changed, not because of any dramatic event, but through the smallest of things. A cool morning breeze, a loved one's gentle glance, or simply the feeling of peace in my heart when I opened my eyes to a new day. Since I began practicing gratitude, I discovered something profound. What we already have is the true foundation of lasting joy. Before, I would easily overlook small moments. I complained about traffic, forgetting I had a vehicle to take me places. I grumbled over a lukewarm meal, not realizing that some go without food. I felt disappointed by a careless word, forgetting that someone was still there by my side, listening to me every day. Gratitude doesn't erase life's challenges, but it changes how I see them. It softens the lens. When I am grateful, I no longer chase happiness. I am already living in it. I began carrying a small notebook. Each night before bed, I'd write down 3 things I was grateful for. At first, it felt awkward, but over time, my mind naturally shifted toward what was good,
rather than what was missing or imperfect. I also learned that gratitude is not just a feeling, it's a way of living. When someone helps me, I don't just say thank you. I ask myself how I can pass that kindness on. When I receive love, I don't keep it for myself. I try to share it. In doing so, gratitude becomes a living current, nourishing me and watering the world around me. On difficult days, I practice gratitude even more. It may sound ironic, but it's precisely when everything feels dark that even the smallest light becomes precious. A message at the right time, a pain-free morning, a song that calms the heart, all become blessings to hold dearly. I no longer wait for big events to feel joy. I've learned to smile for what once felt ordinary. And from that point on, I stopped feeling empty. Life may not be perfect, but my heart feels full.
I used to think of morality as a set of rigid rules, things we must or must not do, that stripped people of their freedom. But the deeper I went into my practice, the more I came to realize living ethically doesn't take away freedom, it creates the very foundation for it to flourish. True freedom isn't doing whatever we want. It's having an inner stability that isn't swayed by craving, anger, or delusion. I witnessed many intelligent, capable people live in constant suffering because they went against their own conscience. They lied to reach their goals, betrayed others for love, and ended up lying awake at night, unable to find peace. On the other hand, I've seen simple people, those with no notable achievements, live with honesty, speak truthfully, and treat others with kindness. And you know what? They possess something no amount of money can buy: deep inner peace. Ever since I chose to live with integrity, my heart has quieted. I no longer need to calculate or hide anything. I no longer live in fear that the truth will one day be exposed. Speaking honestly, doing the right thing, and acting kindly, these are no longer burdens of morality, but a pathway to a profound sense of ease. I'm not perfect, but I do my best to stay true to myself and to respect others. I've learned to pause before speaking words that might cause harm. I'm no longer so easily irritated when things don't go my way. Instead of reacting with anger, I practice responding with compassion. Each time I do, I feel like I'm shielding my heart from being stirred by the outside world. Morality is not a cloak I wear. It's become a second skin, woven into every breath, every decision. Someone once asked me, "Isn't it tiring to always be kind?" I smiled and said, "Not at all. It's because I choose kindness that I'm no longer exhausted by regret." Sometimes a timely apology, a decision to withhold a hurtful comment, or simply choosing not to engage in gossip is all it takes to protect the stillness within. Life is full of chaos and unpredictability, but if we plant seeds of wholesome actions, speak with sincerity, and maintain clarity in thought, then no matter how strong the storm, our mind will remain rooted like bamboo, able to bend but never break. I used to be the kind of person who wanted everything to go according to plan, from work and relationships to the smallest details of daily life. I believed that if I could just control things well enough, I could avoid suffering. But life doesn't operate according to our wishes, and the tighter I tried to hold on, the more exhausted I became. There were plans that seemed certain to succeed, only to collapse at the last moment. There were people I hoped would stay forever, yet they left without a word. Each time, I felt like a leaf caught in a swirling current, powerless, swept away. It wasn't until I began my spiritual practice and revisited the ancient teachings of wise ones that I understood suffering doesn't come from what happens to us, it comes from our refusal to accept what happens. Letting go is not the same as giving up. It is the soft release of rigid expectations, of needing life to unfold exactly the way I had imagined. I learned to give my best in each action, but not to cling to the result. For instance, I put my heart into my work,
But if things don't turn out as planned, I smile and say, that's okay too. Gradually, I stopped seeing failure as something terrible and started seeing it as a necessary detour on the path to growth. I also began to trust life's flow, that each event carries a message, that each person who enters or exits our lives does so at the right time, that every delay has its reason, even if we can't see it yet. Trusting in this doesn't make me passive, it makes me lighter, more adaptable, like water, soft yet able to carve through stone, like a cloud, formless but unburdened by attachment. Old relationships that once broke my heart, I now look back on with gratitude. The failures that once crushed me have become stepping stones to a more mature soul. Whenever I feel fear about not being able to control the future, I return to my breath, to the present moment, because the present is the only place where I can truly live, and the only place where seeds for a better future can be sown. Trusting life's flow doesn't mean giving up. It's the dance between effort and surrender, between action and acceptance. Every day, I still try, I still love, I still cultivate goodness. But I've also learned to breathe deeply and let go gently, allowing life to take me to where my heart was always meant to go, even if the path looks nothing like what I once envisioned.